How do you get clients if you do business in the real world? So if you sell knowledge, expertise, skills, maybe you're a consultant, an agency owner, a business coach. If you do real business with real people in the real world, how do you get those clients? In this video, I'm going to run through the exact sequence of steps, the exact metrics that you will need to take someone from a stranger to a suspect to a prospect to a client. And the best thing about what I'm about to show you is that it can be 100% automated. And I'm going to do it all using my humble whiteboard. So what I have in front of me here is something called B2B Northstar Metrics. These are the most important metrics that you need to measure if you want to get customers and clients, particularly as a B2B business owner. What do I mean by that? You're a business and you sell to other businesses. You're a business, maybe you're a business owner, and your clients are other business owners and senior decision makers within business. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to map the metrics for a business just like yours. What is the first and most important metric that you need to map? And I'm going to start down here. It's down the bottom. We're talking about metric number 3, and that is, of course, sales. Sales. We want to measure sales coming in the door. Very, very important to be able to measure sales. I say, how do you have proof that someone has purchased from you? And they will say, oh, I have a purchase order. Do you know what's better than a purchase order? Actual cash in the door. So I highly recommend that you have some sort of carts tool that you can use to at least take a deposit. When somebody buys something from you and they pull out their credit card and they buy something from you, even if it's partial payment or a deposit, that indicates a high level of commitment. So the best type of product to sell to a new customer or client is something that we call a high no-brainer. How do you know when it's a high no-brainer? When it requires no proposal. Now, this might not be your full service. It might be a scaled back version of what you do. It might be a single item of what it is that you do. But a high no-brainer is about selling something that's easy for the prospect to buy, where they can pay in full upfront or put down a deposit, usually with a credit card that requires no proposal. Because once somebody has bought from you, they're 16 times more likely to buy from you again, according to the Wharton School of Business. That first sale is always going to be the toughest sale. So your first metric to measure are sales. And in particularly, if you can sell a high no-brainer, you can use a cart, and those particular metrics can indeed be measured. All right, now once again, if we're selling something that's a little bit more complex, that often will require a conversation to get the customer or client across the line, what is the next metric that we might want to measure? The next metric is going to be meetings. Indeed, meetings booked. Meetings, and I'll just put a little space in here because I'm going to put a number in here. Indeed, I'm also going to put a number down here as well too. Is meetings. We want to be able to book meetings because when we book meetings, that is the natural conduit to it's the previous step before a sale if you're selling a complex product or service for most business operators. So you will need to book meetings. Now again, if we're going to sell a meeting the same way that we're going to sell a product, why not productize it and simplify it? Now, I talked about a high no-brainer, and that is because smaller promises get faster decisions. It's the same with the meeting. We can treat it like a product and we can sell it. Now, the best type of meeting to sell is an AWP. AWP stands for an appointment with purpose. So most people are out there going, hey, let's catch up and explore ways that we can work together. Hey, let's catch up and explore ways that I can take your money. Yeah, that's the way that people do it. But an appointment with purpose is when you sell the outcome of the meeting. So you're saying, let's meet up, and over 45 minutes, you are going to get this particular outcome. Now, again, we want proof. And once again, if we're selling complex products and services, the MO, the modus operandi for a lot of people is to manually coordinate that meeting. When's good for you? No, when's good for you? No, when's good for you? I don't know. When's good for you? And then any authority that you built up over time just evaporates. And that is because you don't seem like you're in demand anymore, which is why we need a booking tool. So the same way that I love having a cart, because a cart we can measure, I love having a booking tool because, again, we can measure the bookings. Now, I work with a lot of business owners and I will say, hey, how many bookings did you get last month? And they'll say, I don't know. I'll just go back to my calendar and I'll have a look. And that's fine and all, it's all well and good. It's not a great way to grow or scale a business. And you can't do that if you have employees doing the sales for you. So once again, when we're taking a sale, we want to offer a high no-brainer so that we can take a deposit using a cart tool and the metrics are measured. If we're doing bookings, let's elevate the perceived value in you as an authority, and we'll invite people to book time with you, which requires another tool. Now, because we're talking about metrics, this is where you need to participate and decide to set some goals. So when it comes to sales, my first question typically is, what is the minimum number of clients that you need to sign in any given month? So when I'm meeting with a new client, what is the minimum number? We call this minimum moolah. This is the number of clients that you are going to need to keep the lights on, to pay your bills, to pay your staff, to pay your own rent or your mortgage, to feed yourself, right? This is minimum moolah, and we need to know that number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the number four clients per month as minimum moolah. The next thing we want to do is we want to come up with a number. Now that doesn't show up very well, that number, so I'm going to choose another color. That might be our minimum moolah. But however, we also want to set some goals for ourselves. So we have our minimum moolah, and then we can multiply that by 4, 16, and then that can be our next optimal stage of growth. Now, some people I'll say, oh, how much do you want to grow by? And they'll go times 10. That would kill most businesses, right? You just simply could not go from 4 to 40 clients in a short time frame. So we start with our minimum moolah. I'm going to say 4 clients. And our optimal number of clients that we would like to grow a really sustainable business, I'm going to put down as 16. Every business is different. If you're playing along, please do it. Now, if we look at this and we say, all right, how many clients do I need for? The next logical question is, how many meetings am I going to need to book? So at this point, you need to establish your close rate. I've got 2 dots here, your close rate. And I'm going to write 1 in what? So how many meetings do you need to close a client? Is it 1 in 3? So when you have 3 conversations, is that how many you close? Is it 1 in 3? Is it 1 in 10? Is it 1 in 1 because you close 100% of the time? Is it 1 in 2? Now, I do meet a lot of people that say it's 1 in 2. When most people say to me it's 1 in 2, they're usually a little bit deluded. And that is because as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we're gamblers. And gamblers only remember the wins. A typical standard conversion rate, particularly when you're talking to cold audiences, is going to be around 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. Now, you might look at that and go, oh, you know what? I close 1 in 3 or I close 1 in 2. My business partner used to say that all the time until we began to measure the metrics. And then I was like, well, what about this one? And they said, oh, well, they were getting married. What about this one? Well, they were into it, but their spouse wasn't. What about this one? Well, they couldn't afford it. There were 3 people that said no, right? How many meetings do you need to close 1 client? For most people, it's going to be 1 in 4. Now, if you can identify your own close rate, or at least have a guess, you can then establish how many meetings that you're going to need to achieve that goal. So if you need 4 sales, and that's your minimum moolah, you're going to need to have 16 meetings because you got a 1 in 4 close rate. So suddenly we've got a new metric here. If we know we want to close 4 sales in any given month, we're going to need 16 meetings. Now, when we do this, I've seen my clients' mindset shift from I need clients to I need meetings. And that is because you have to have the meeting to get the client. But it's really difficult to get the client without that meeting. So we're looking at our metrics. How many clients do we need? How many meetings do we need to get that client? Now, what do you think is going to be my next metric up here? What comes before meetings? What is the logical step that needs to happen before we have the meetings with the client? Well, someone needs to step into our world, and they step into our world in a whole bunch of different ways. There could be a referral. It could be just an inbound inquiry from our website. But what we need is we need leads. And they can be, these can be articulated in a whole bunch of different ways. But leads in my world, if we're looking at proof of what the lead is going to be, first name, last name, email address, and maybe a phone number. First name, last name, email address, and maybe a phone number. And that comes down to whether you believe you can get yourself a phone number or not. That is your number of leads. Now I'm going to put a space in here because we're going to start to introduce some conversion boosters in just a second. I got conversion booster number 1 and conversion booster number 2. The best type of lead generation tool is a gift. Now, a gift is not free because it requires a first name, last name, email address, so it's not entirely free, but the cost is so low that it feels like a gift. The best lead magnets, lead generation tools, tackle a headache that your customer or clients have before they know they need you, So how many leads do we need to get our 16 meetings? Now, the next metric that I'm going to give you might shock you. It might horrify you. It might leave you feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And that is because the typical conversion rate from a lead to a meeting is usually around 3%. Now, if you need 16 meetings, how many leads are you going to need to generate to get your 16 meetings? Now, I'm not very strong at my maths, which is why I build models like this, but the answer is around 600. And that is absolutely horrifying. If I say, if you want 4 clients a month and you want 16 meetings, you're going to need 600 leads, most people are going to freak out and give up at that point and go back to hustling and chasing clients manually rather than creating a world where leads come to them. But I do have a wonderful conversion booster that I'm going to throw in the middle here. Now, the conversion booster that I'm going to talk about is a concept called a triage form. Now, a triage form is a little survey, like a diagnostic or a quiz, and we're going to wedge it between the lead page, your landing page, and your booking page. If you go to a hospital, right, and you step in the door, there's always a triage nurse. And the triage nurse will decide whether you should see a doctor because you've got blood pouring out your eyes, or whether you should just be sitting there waiting for hours because you've got a case of the sniffles. A triage form is a great way to pre-qualify your leads, but it also builds anticipation in what it is that you do. It helps educate people about the problems that you solve. So a good triage form or a quiz or a diagnostic is going to talk about the challenges, like do you suffer from any of these challenges, or which one of these goals most matches what you want to achieve. So we're building desire for the next step while also pre-qualifying. If you've never done a diagnostic or a quiz before, here's a really simple framework. Do you have what it takes to get outcome? Complete the diagnostic. Do you have what it takes to run the Boston Marathon? Do you have what it takes to raise venture capital? Do you have what it takes to, and invite someone to answer that particular form? So I'm just going to put a number in here, 100. And I'm choosing 100 because 100 leads a month, I believe, should be the base benchmark that any business should aspire to attract in any given month, particularly if you're selling knowledge or expertise. Once again, you might say 100, that seems like a lot. It works out to be about 3 a day, which means even the biggest bonehead can jump on LinkedIn and manually solicit leads for 30 minutes in any given day and at least get 3, right? Any business can do that, 100. But you might have noticed that I said the conversion rate is typically 3%. 3% if we're going from lead to meeting. But this is wild. The triage form is a version of something that we call a success page or a confirmation page. Success pages and confirmation pages are one of the highest converting pieces of real estate in the online world. And that is because when we take an action and we hit that success page or the confirmation page, and it says success or confirmed or thank you, this is one of those rare moments where you have your future customer or client's absolute and undivided attention. People are thinking, did it work? And they lean in. And if someone's going to lean in after opting in for a free resource, let's use that. Let's maximize that. If I was in McDonald's, and this was 20 years ago, now everything in McDonald's is automated, but if I went to McDonald's 20 years ago and I bought myself a hamburger and a Coke, what would the clerk say at the checkout? They would say, would you like fries with that? And that's because they have my undivided attention. So we can go from a lead to a triage form, and rather than getting a conversion rate of around 3%, we would get a conversion rate of around 30%, which is wild, right? We're going to tenfold it. And the reason why is because I said this a little bit earlier, smaller promises get faster decisions. So we're making a small promise, a larger promise, a slightly larger promise, and a larger promise again. But these are all small promises in the grander scheme of things, particularly if we're selling knowledge and expertise and services where most people come in and promise transformation. All right, don't do that. Offer a high no-brainer, scaled back version of what it is that you do. Set your goal. Let's say you want to sign 4 clients a month, which means that you are going to need how many meetings? That comes down to your conversion rate. If it's 1 in 4, you're going to need 16 meetings. If you're going to need 16 meetings, how many leads are you going to need? Well, let's just say we have 100 and 30% complete the triage form, which means that we have about 30 leads coming through to complete the triage form. How many of the people completing the triage form will book a meeting? Well, the answer is about 30% of them again, which works out to be 10. 30% of 100 is 30, and 30% of 30 is around 10. It's still not enough though, is it? It's still not enough. But that's okay, because over on the right here, when somebody opts into our world, what are we going to do? We're going to start sending them a couple different emails. So let me just draw some borders around this email. And let me draw a border around this email. And then I'm going to draw a border around this final email as well too. As I do this on the fly, getting started is more important than trying to get it perfect. So when somebody opts into your world, what we want to do is we want to collect their details, and then we want to send them a couple emails in a sequence. The first email that you will send is an email that we call the promise. And all the promise email does is deliver on the promise that you made. Hey, do you want this free thing? Here's this free thing. A lot of people overcomplicate this email and they gild the lily, and people get upset. They just go, where's the damn thing you promised me, right? All right, number 2. The second email that we're going to send is an email called the welcome email. You'll probably send this 24 hours later. The promise is instant. The welcome is about 24 hours later. And this is an opportunity for you to tell your story. This is about building trust. So the first email is all about demonstrating that you keep your promises, you are trustworthy. The second one is about trust and being memorable. And that's because the number one reason why people opt out of your email newsletter, or the number one reason why you opt out of other people's email newsletters, is that you kind of forgot who they are and they're no longer important to you. But if you can have a welcome email that tells your story, you're probably going to lose about 1 to 3% are going to unsubscribe straight away because they don't resonate with your story. But the other 98%, 97% are going to stick around and think twice before they unsubscribe. The third email is your offer. And we're going to go back to the offer to book a meeting. Now, we can send someone back to the triage form if we're being particularly selective about it, or we could just send them straight to the meeting page. The reason why we want to do this is we want to demonstrate that we are commercial. We don't want people to go, oh yeah, this person's just in the business of giving me free stuff and I'm going to get free stuff from this person forever. We want to say, here is my promise. I've just delivered on the promise. Aren't I trustworthy? Here is my story. This is my authentic connection to the problem that I solve. And then we have the offer, and the offer is, hey, this is how I can help you. And that demonstrates that you're commercial, that you're in a business that wants to do business. From this particular list, you should, in theory, get another 10. So we've got our 100, 30% complete the triage form, 30% of them book the meeting, and then another 10% come in this way. Suddenly we've got 20 meetings. Now, why is 20 meetings important or significant? Particularly after I just threw down 16 a moment ago. Well, let me introduce conversion booster number 2. And it might sound counterintuitive by wedging a step in here, but when we add steps, we actually increase the conversion rate. The second thing that I'm going to add here is show up metrics. And that is because not everyone who books a meeting with you will show up. So I can have 20 meetings booked, but I might only have 16 people show up, which would be an 80% conversion rate. Some industries, it's a lot lower. Sometimes only 50% of the people show up. But as a bare minimum, about 20% of people are not going to show up. They might reschedule, they might postpone. They don't necessarily ghost you, but they will find a reason to not meet with you. And we don't want that to happen. Indeed, we want someone to turn up to our sales calls totally vibed, totally excited, totally ready to make a decision, which is why, once again, we've got another set of conversion metrics here, or conversion boosting tools. And yeah, of course, once again, we've got some emails. And that is because when somebody books a meeting with you, what we want to do is we want to send a countdown sequence to get them excited for the meeting before they even show up. Indeed, this whole process is about building anticipation. It's about educating prospects. It's about handling objections before they come up right from the beginning, So if somebody books a meeting with you, there's some logical things that you want to do. You want to send them a confirmation email just to say the meeting has been confirmed, puts it in their own digital calendar. You're probably going to want to send a message, which is a 24-hour reminder, maybe a 1-hour reminder, maybe even a 15-minute reminder. So we want reminders. Indeed, we send, I kid you not, about 7 emails leading up to a meeting because some of them are functional emails and they perform a purpose like confirmed, but others are just purely about building anticipation before the meeting. They're handling objections before they come up. So how do we do that? We might send a case study. A case study is an easy way to get people interested in what it is that you do. Another thing that I like to send 24 hours beforehand is a funny or educational video. Now, if you don't have your own videos, just find some funny educational video that already exists on YouTube and say, hey, I just saw this on YouTube the other day. It made me think about our upcoming meeting. People get excited by that. And number 3, we've got a case study. We've got videos. Now, this is a weird one, right? This is a weird one. We need to remind people why they booked the meeting in the first place. We need to talk about outcomes. And what most people do is they send a confirmation. Most people go, oh, you know what? I'm going to send a confirmation. Just checking in to make sure that the meeting's going ahead at 1 p.m. And that is a dumb idea, confirmation. And the reason why is you're giving someone an opportunity to say, hey, listen, that's not really useful for me today. I've got other things going on. They're more important. I'm way too busy. No, instead send an agenda. And the agenda needs to tackle outcomes, particularly their headaches, their obstacles, their aspirations and desires, because we need to remind people why they came into our world in the first place. Now, all of this, except the meeting itself at the very end, can be automated. We can use tools to automate this. Now, I don't know if you've been checking out the metrics, but according to the psychologists of the world, it takes 7 touches before someone's going to truly trust you. All right, 7 touches before somebody believes that you can actually help them, that you're the right person for them. 7 touches. That's the psychologists of the world, and they've been saying that for decades. Google decided to go out and produce a report called ZMOT, or Zero Moment of Truth. And they found that if you're selling a complex product or service, particularly if you're in the B2B space, it's going to take, on average, around 14 touches. And that was the average. So it could be 4, yay, but it could be 40, which is a lot. Now let's have a look at this, and let's assume that somewhere at the very top of the funnel, you are running an ad maybe you're posting stuff on social media, $social. Maybe you're doing something with a partner. That would be SMAPs. There are all sorts of different ways to engage with your audiences and pull them into your world before they know that you exist, that are the opposite of push marketing, where you're pushing yourself on them, such as cold calling and cold emailing and door knocking and all that other stuff. But let's just say we're posting something on social media and that post says, hey, I've got an awesome free thing. Would you like it? So for example, somewhere down here, I've got an awesome free thing. If you want it, leave me a comment and I'll send it your way. But if we have a look at this, this can be touch number 1. They see the thing on social media. Touch number 2. Touch number 3. Touch number 4. Touch number 5. Not necessarily in this order. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're already at 11 before the meeting has taken place, which is a whole lot better than 0. And it can be largely automated. So that, guys and gals, is how to get clients. This is Sales and Marketing 101 by the metrics. The wonderful thing about this stuff is that it can be almost entirely 100% automated. If you want your own version of this map, leave me a comment and I'll make sure that either myself or one of my staff, or more likely a technology tool that we're using, is going to send you the thing that's below this video.